Hey, how are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I wanted to talk to you today because I just went out to my mailbox and found this.
Yeah, this.
This. It is a
Yeah.
Dirty Looks album called "Cool from the Speedway," and I want to know
Apparently,
more about this.
apparently that band hasn't put out, or any formation of that band has not had a release in over a decade.
Wow.
And that's interesting because Henrik Ostergaard, rest his soul,
Yes.
passed away in 2011. So that makes sense. There was probably a new release just before that, because he had kept the band going in some facility, in some manner until the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a lot of records out there, um, a lot of music too, and a lot of it was independently released, such as this new one, "Cool from the Speedway," which is actually released by the band. So, yeah, look at those handsome.
Yeah.
I
Checkered
almost I
flag.
almost said young men. There's not a young man in sight on that album
So
cover.
for people that are listening and watching, this is a revamped version of the band Dirty Looks featuring original members Paul Lydell, Jack Pyers, Gene Barnett, and you on lead vocals, along with your Broken Teeth cohort, David Beeson, on second guitar. So how did this come about?
Well, the liner notes, which are written brilliantly, I must say, whoever wrote those fucking things
I
just
need,
killed it.
I need to take some lessons, huh?
Well, it was for everyone listening. I'm being the very Jason I was born to be. It's you, Dave. You wrote the liner notes.
Oh, that's right.
So
Thank you.
now the
Yeah.
liner notes didn't fit inside the record the way we wanted or like them to do, and it ended up turning into, you know, a PR, right? Press
Yeah.
release. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's great. That's great because it got a little long-winded, for a seed for just a blurb in a CD
Yeah.
layout. So when you think about that kind of stuff, it starts to get crowded.
Yeah.
But it's up on the band's website, dirtylooksmusic.com. It's up on the dirtylooks.hearnow.com, where you can hear clips and snippets of all of the songs, and you can buy the record digitally. But the record's out. You can get it. It's been out for 3 days, and you can go listen to it right now. The trick is that it's a DVD as well, and none
Yeah.
of the videos are out yet. None of them have been leaked or issued or stolen yet. So
Yet.
it's still kind of a virgin on that, on those points there. So that's great. But there's been great response so far. I kind of like it that, we did this with Broken Teeth a while back. Is we've got this going on, right? It's a
Yeah.
swing tray. It's
Yeah.
a jewel case that holds two CDs. It's not a new invention. This is still very, very old school. We put a lot of money, time, money, effort, blood, sweat, and money, tears into this thing. And it was almost cursed, but I won't even get into why it was. It just had to be a labor of love, and there is no other way to say it. It also says I have to brag a little bit on Gene Barnett, because he and his artist did this layout of the insert,
Yeah.
and it came out amazing. All of the there's photo credits in here. I love the photos, and I don't know how pro of a photographer some of the photographers were, but I guess it was one or two people there with a big fat lens on it, hanging
Yeah.
around the barricade, you know. But it came. It's a beautiful release. It looks fantastic, and everyone's been shocked. Now, rumor has it, or it has been confirmed, that this is the longest set, 17 songs, that Dirty Looks has ever done in the band's, you know, 35 or 40-year career.
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking about that. We were just stacking up the songs, me and Dave being huge fans and being asked to jump in. And, you know, Henrik's so badass it takes two dudes to cover what Henrik was doing.
Yeah. One of the greatest rock voices ever for my money, man.
Well, just a great writer. He wasn't afraid to write, you know, to let the song just kind of bubble up and come out, you know.
Yeah.
And he was lucky in that regard of being able to do it over and over and over. And once he made the magic, it was the magic. And all the song, we tried to focus on the era that the lineup of Gene and Paul and Jack were involved in. The Cool from the Wire, Cool from the Screw, right?
Yeah.
Turn of the Wire, whatever you want to say. Those two records, that lineup was, you know, and Jack wrote songs and was in, you know, in the band since the mid 80s.
Yeah.
So Jack's kind of, he disclaims that he's an original guy because there was someone before him on bass.
Yeah.
But I would call him original. It's pretty. You know,
Yeah. I think most people would.
Yeah, and I almost would say that about Paul too, but you'll be corrected by archivists,
Yeah, of course.
or the men themselves who, you know, were technically replacing someone else.
Sure. So it's a live concert recording and a live concert, the same concert filmed on DVD, recorded in Pennsylvania,
Sealands Grove Speedway.
Speedway.
In Sealands Grove, Pennsylvania, September 18th, 2021.
And so give people some background on your relationship with Dirty Looks. Obviously, Paul left Dirty Looks and joined you in Dangerous Toys, so there's that connection. But your history with Dirty Looks goes back even before then, so it all sort of makes sense that you would end up singing on this album. But tell people your relationship with Dirty Looks going back to the late 80s.
I was in San Antonio in a hotel room getting ready for a Dangerous Toys gig, and this would have been in 1987, late 87, maybe early 88. And we're getting ready to go to the venue, and there's a clock radio on the nightstand, and we're listening to 99.5 Kiss, of course. And Joe Anthony comes on, and if you like old school AC/DC, you're going to love this. The band is called Dirty Looks, and this is called Oh Ruby. And that motherfucker gave me, it chainsawed my brain. And I was like turning around to my guy, are you guys hearing this? This is like, okay, turns out it was produced by Max Norman.
Mm-hmm.
The Toys were not signed yet. That's how early it was. I mean, we were signed like literally a few months later, but we ended up using Max Norman, and Dirty Looks was one of the reasons. Among other reasons, Max also produced this song. You might have heard it. It's called Crazy Train.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
think I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe on a car commercial or something.
Wizard
Anyway,
of
so,
Oz.
yeah. So anyway, fast forward. So we do our thing, and the Toys record comes out, and we start a tour October 11th of 1989. We had already been on the road that whole summer, but we're in Austin at the Austin Opera House. And Dirty Looks is playing at the Back Room, the place where the Toys were discovered. the same night, October 11th, 1989. And I'm going, man, wish I could stay and see LA Guns tonight. You know, we're starting to tour with them in our hometown. Wish I could hang around. Oh, maybe I'll stay for a couple of songs before I get in the car and head over to the back room to see fucking Dirty Looks, because I was a fan.
Yeah.
So the funny thing is, you know, I watch a couple of LA Gun songs and I walk over to the hallway that leads into the dressing room, to the backstage area, and I open it up. And Paul Lydell and Jack Pyers from Dirty Looks are standing there in the hallway just staring at me. I open the door and they're facing me. And I'm like, you're Paul Lydell and you're Jack Pyers from Dirty Looks. What the? I'm coming to see you, Tim. Before they even got a word in, I was just like fanboying on them.
Yeah.
So the funny thing is they had come over to see us play, and we were all going to go over and see them play. So I think they had already seen us, and then we just palled around the rest of the day and night, and they killed it at the show. Okay, that's in 1989. Dude, such a fan. I became friends with Paul Lydell. Love his guitar playing. We would send each other tapes and stuff, demos, whatever. We always kept in touch. So, yeah, in '94, I just stole him from Dirty Looks. Toys needed a player, so.
Yeah.
Still, and he's still in, obviously, people around here know he's a staple here. He's been here since '94, January 1st of '94. And the current bass player for Dirty Looks was moving out to LA at the time, and his name was Brian Perry. And you may know him. He was in Prong for a minute. I want to say he was like on his way out to LA to join like Lizzie Borden or maybe even Prong. I don't know. But he dropped Paul off. He was like, they were coming through Texas Brian was on his way to LA. He basically was dropping Paul off at my house right over there by your place when I was living with Tweety.
Yeah.
That's where that was. Right. Okay, so there's a lot of history there that I won't go into, but about going on like 5 years ago, Paul says to me, hey, Jack and I have been talking about doing this Dirty Looks thing, and Jack called me and he said, hey, me and Gene want to, get the band back together kind of thing, right? and Paul goes, well, hey, we need it, who's gonna sing, and da da da. And Paul, bless his heart, says these words to me, or not to me, but to those guys over the phone. He says, well, I won't do it unless Jason does it. I love you, Paul.
Wow.
I love you, Paul. I love you more than you'll ever know. He says that, and those guys are like, well, okay, done deal. Like in other words, like, will he do it? Do you think that he'll do it?
Yeah.
And the thing is like, if I would have heard that they were getting someone else, I would have been so butthurt. So, you know what I mean? It's like, oh man, I didn't get the call, kind of a thing. So there was literally no audition, but those guys wanted to hear me. This is the thing that's been left out for years, is Paul made a demo of some drum loop stuff, like drum machine, with him playing Dirty Looks riffs. And I 4-tracked, and it was like 4 songs. I think it was Cool and Turn of the Screw and like maybe Nobody Writes for Free, and it was Ruby. And they were shorter versions. It was like a minute of each tune. And Paul had me just sing on those. And I gave them to Paul, and Paul sent them to those guys. And I never heard back. I guess I got the gig. So that was like 5 fucking years ago. Okay, fast forward again to right before the pandemic. We finally get in a room and play the songs together with David on second guitar. We book some shows, and then COVID hits. So all that cancels.
Right.
So
I remember.
Then we salvage one of the gigs back, 2 years after the Matter, and no rehearsals took place prior to this live record that you're holding in your hand and that's actually out now. There was no rehearsals since the one pre-pandemic. So on September 17th, we flew into Baltimore. No, we flew into Baltimore and drove to Sealands Grove to an undisclosed rehearsal studio, and we rehearsed one time and played the gig that has been forever immortalized on this disc. We hired video company, video crew, recording crew, blah blah, on a shoestring budget. I think Jack and Gene and whoever else is in the Sealands Grove and the promoter too were pulling strings and, really using their resources to, hey, you got some Marshall stacks? Hey, you got an extra SVT cabinet? Hey, you got some lights? It was kind of like that. And
Yeah.
it was a huge success. 1,000 crazy fans came from that whole tri-state area, from Philly and from Rochester, New York, and Jersey, and people were there from Florida. People were there from Texas, and it was such a good time.
So you told me there's a couple of stories I want to touch on real quick before we have to go, and one of them is, didn't you tell me that the guitar that Paul Lydell is playing at this show is the same guitar he tracked the Cool from the Wire album with?
This is not a rumor. This is true.
Wow.
He had it put back together because it was parts, but it is the guitar. In other words, it's been upgraded a little bit and repainted the same color that it used to be because somebody had it. I think he lent it to somebody, or it was stolen, or I'm sure the guitar has that much history because it's going on 40 years old, right?
Yeah. Wow.
It's one of those old Dean Flying V guitars, like one of the early ones.
And Gene, I think it was Gene, told me via email when I was writing up the liner notes, is it true that the day of the gig, you guys almost got rained out and it almost didn't happen?
It's true.
Wow.
It was a little spotty in the rain, and like literally 4 of us were still at the hotel, and we were all on this massive thread of texts, and they're going, well, now it's raining, Well, now the stage doesn't have wood on it, and it's all buckled because it's the stage company and this PA the day before the gig that was scheduled to be there for staging and PA and lighting and production. The production crew canceled. They had some kind of and I don't know the story behind it, and I hope everybody's all lovey-dovey again, but there was a falling out, and that original production crew, literally 10 hours before, 15 hours before the gig, had pulled the plug. So they scrambled to find staging, and there was it's a speedway, so there's all kinds of weird things out there, and they had 2 flatbed trailer, like semi-size flatbed trailers that they got them next to each other, but there's a space, this probably wide between them, and it's the wood on it, the slats on it are not flat. Talk about break a leg.
Yeah. Right.
How about 10?
Yeah.
How about break 10 legs? much less a wobbly drum kit or whatever. So they had to basically build a stage out of these, and they slated the stage, plywood, and it was raining off and on, and it rained out the opening band, and they actually still played, but then they stopped playing in the middle of their set because it started raining again. And they had tarps over the light rig, and oh my God, it was a mess. And the fans are in the middle of a field. It's a muddy.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
they're in the middle of a speedway. There's a track
Yeah.
going around the field.
Well, I think the fact that the rain broke and allowed you guys to go on is a sign that Henrik was smiling down upon you,
Right on
and
time too.
you guys got the gig recorded. It's a great sounding, great looking DVD. Jason was obviously the man for the job. We've got a long time relationship with the band and friends with Henrik. Henrik actually used to pull you on stage once in a while, and you're the only guy that he ever let come on stage and guest vocals with you. So there's that. And I know you're a huge fan of his, so you
Yeah.
did the songs justice. And anyone that wants to get their hands on this, it's at dirtylooks.com. Is that correct?
DirtyLooksMusic.com. By the time this comes out, it will be available there. There was a ball dropped on our physical copies being available through outlets at the time we're recording this. Or, the record's only been out 3 days.
Yeah.
So, yeah, by the time this airs, it should be available physical everywhere. Digital, go to town.
Yeah.
Open your phone. It's there.
I think it's a great tribute to Henrik, and I think Dirty Looks fans are going to love it. And
I want to give some hats off to some people who really worked hard on this. And first and foremost, I want to give some credit to Gene Barnett, because there were some things about the mixes that were happening that a lot of other people might have been unaware of. And Gene could tell, his ears, he could tell there was something amiss. And he fixed a lot of it. We had to change mixers, audio mixers. We went to a couple of guys. There was a lot of heavy lifting being done by the first guy, as far as getting the mixes together and editing out. I mean, dude, I was talking in between songs, and we didn't, it would have been a 3-hour gig, So we edited it down, but Gene was really kind of armor plated on this and was insistent on the particulars of the way the record needed to sound. I just wanted it to sound live, because it's a live record. It's not a studio record. It's a live record. So you want it to be this, have this kind of crushing thing going on when you listen to it. Not calm. I don't want it to be perfect,
Right.
And Gene was a big player in that. The artwork that he put together with photos from we all sort of chose out of batches from photographers that were there, and some of them were taken with iPhones. Anyone who had iPhone footage, because the camera crew, the batteries ran out and they're missing songs while they're trying to get the batteries in there in the cameras. Luckily, we had a hardwired drum cam on Gene, so it's literally the main footage throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I'm glad of that. So between the fans, people in the band, the artist, I can't think of her last name. Her name's Laurence.
Steve Miller had a hand in editing
Steve Miller
the video.
he did magic. He created magic with the editing, because
Always does.
yeah, because there was a lot of footage that was just like, huh? Why is, someone's playing a solo and there's not a camera on it. Someone's singing and there's not a camera on it. So there was no shots being called. There was no director of photography in the field, right? So Steve made it all happen. As far as the video goes, Matt Bray did the final mix on it. Saved the day. Between Matt and Gene, they just really saved the day. So when you listen to it, think about what those guys are doing, and think about the stories that you heard here today about the making of this record, because the snow, sleet, rain, shine, it was hell on earth, and I want to think that Henrik was up there laughing at us. But once we got it going, I think he was smiling.
Yeah.
So
I think so. The results speak for themselves. Nice tribute to Henrik, and nice job on your part. Nice job on everyone's part. Thank you guys for bringing back the great songs of Dirty Looks and putting them
thanks
live.
for wanting to talk about this, Dave.
Yeah,
I'll give
absolutely.
you credit for wanting to plug this and talk about it. I think that you're right that it's a good idea to talk about it, but it's just a bit smarmy for someone in the band to go, "Hey man, we're gonna do a promo for my new hey, if you have your own podcast, sure, you should be allowed to plug your own shit, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But you know what I mean, and I'm
Yeah,
just glad that you wanted to talk about it. Well, you were
absolutely.
involved in helping us get it go. So
Well,
yeah,
and as you know, Cool from the Wire is one of my favorite albums. I think it's one of the great, often overlooked albums of
that's
the
funny.
hard
Me
rock
too. It's one of
1980s.
my me too.
Yeah,
One of my favorites too.
absolutely. All right, well, folks, there you have it. Go get it. DirtyLooksMusic.com and all over the usual
Digital
digital
landscape.
platforms. Cool from the Speedway, Dirty Looks.